You, the 3 LGBT members on the Board of Supervisors, writing them to remind them where the support of San Francisco comes from for the medical cannabis program, and that it came from activism in the LGBT community, and that we need to continue supporting that community even in light of the federal issues. So as a result of all this pressure we've been putting on DPH, they kind of come back and said, we're not going to have this recommendation come out for concentrates right now. And if you heard Compost say it also at the meeting, at the press conference today, that they're going to be working on re-permitting the displaced dispensaries or expediting some sort of permitting.
It's because our community stood up. You know, it's sad that we have to keep stomping out fires, but they understand that we are a lot of people, and we're militated, and we're ready to respond, and we vote.
Act up! Yeah, all right.
Our next item is a Sacramento update. I know we like to think locally, but we also have to think globally as well while we act locally. There are 3 bills in Sacramento that are on the hopper that we want you to pay close attention to and urge your local assembly members to oppose. Who knows their local assembly member in San Francisco?
Leno.
Who is it?
Amiano.
Tom Amiano. Can you say Amiano?
Amiano.
Okay. Who's our state senator?
Mark
Leno. Okay. I have some good news about that coming up. So there are 3 bills in Sacramento that we want you to oppose. AB 2252 by Torres, a Democrat. A positive test for any amount of cannabinoids in your urine or blood would be an automatic DUI. We vehemently oppose that. We think that somewhere between 40 to 50% of the drivers in California would be nailed by this.
Aren't there naturally cannabinoids in our body?
Yes.
They don't register as THC.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, you will test positive for cannabinoids in your blood for about 3 days. But for urine, it's not just 28 days as we first thought. We've heard of people testing positive for cannabinoids in their urine after 39 days. Yeah, almost 6 weeks. So keep in mind that it could be a situation where you smoked on Monday the 1st, and then on Monday the 29th, you're driving, you're completely sober, but you're stopped. For some reason, they make you take a urine test, and the next thing you know, you might lose your license.
Fascism.
Yeah.
So we want you to oppose AB 2252. We ask you to also oppose AB 2465 by Compost. That would require that all medical marijuana patients get the state ID card, turning it from an option to a mandatory thing. And furthermore, the worst part would be that you would have to register where you cultivate your medicine, their address. And so we are way, way opposed to this. Yes?
Are there any statements from ASA or other groups about whether or not that's even legal to do under Prop 215?
We think that it would be an unconstitutional thing because as long as under federal law we're still breaking the law by possessing and using a controlled substance, Schedule 1, that by the Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination, we would not be constitutionally allowed to require that patients get the state ID card. Not every state requires them. Most medical cannabis states do, but a few do not. California is one of them. And the last bill, 2365, we have a little bit of better news. That's a bill that required, up until recently, that during cases of child custody cases in family court, that the issue of a person's medical cannabis use be required to be brought out into the open. That part of the bill was removed. Only the parts relating to illegal substances other than medical cannabis are in that bill. So like, if there's a child custody case and one of the people involved uses methamphetamine, that can now, under this bill, if it passes, would be required to be brought to public light. Okay? So those are the 3 bills there. We'll see if we can get through the entire agenda, then we'll take our long break. Does that sound good? A few more minutes? Thank you. All right. We're now going to move on to the United campaign. What happened today at San Francisco? We had a great rally, 300 to 500 people. I think it said 200 in the paper. I think it's more than 300. Give yourselves a big round for being there today. Wasn't that a fabulous rally? Wasn't that great? One of the biggest rallies we've had for medical cannabis since 1996, when Prop 215 passed. Back in the 16 years ago, when I was an embryo. So, we'd like to open the floor for people to discuss and process what happened. We want to just take people's feedback about that. Is there anything people want to share about what happened today?
I'd like to make a comment about the...
Stand up so we can hear you.
All right. I'm going to sit down.
It's raining out there.
Today, it moved me in a way that I haven't been moved in a long time politically. I think it pissed me off after a long period of being sort of depressed. I was depressed that there weren't more people there. And I looked around, I thought there was more like 1,000 people. When I looked around, I stepped back and I took a good look around, and I thought it was more like 1,000, but, you know, I'm glad those people were out there. But after a while, I was depressed that it was only that many. I thought we should have had like 10,000. I mean, we've got to keep pricking the consciousness of people to make those numbers happen. And I don't know, that's what sort of bugged me to get down here. So that's why I spit that out.
Mobilize.
Mobilize
Thank you for
money.
sharing that. In the back?
Yes, I have a point. You know, I was at the raid yesterday, and I know you talked about Richard Lee's thing already, but you know, I think this is a good chance for us to galvanize the community. I mean, how many people went through Richard Lee's Oh So Damn thing and are just like sitting there smoking our bongs and not like calling our opponents? And so, you know, I think we need to galvanize the entire community and get us on the email, get us on the phone, and talk to people. You know, all of us that actually went through Richard Lee's program, we at least, and then the rest of us that are friends of us, need to get on the freaking phone and get on it, because this is bullshit, you know, and we all need to fucking wake up, put the fucking bong down and pick up the phone.
I rise to say that was a great crowd today. Haven't been to many marches, because you got to realize in San Francisco, a lot of people were waiting on the postman. Today's the 3rd. A lot of sick people did not come because they wanted their check. Okay? So the SSI people were not there. They were waiting on the mailman. That was a great crowd because they went from the city to the federal and back. And that was actually for San Francisco to bring the power back to the city.
Hey, can people not interrupt, please?
In the past, we've gone to the federal building over cannabis issues, and everybody was worried about whether they had their pipe in their pocket, and don't smoke around here. And I walk around smoking a joint, and people would tell me, oh, you got to get away from here, you know, because we're on federal property and all that stuff. And I thought it was kind of nice today that when we first walked up on the federal property, there must have been 20 or 30 joints going on.
Everybody fired them up today.
We had a nice big puff of cloud going up over us for a good 15, 20 minutes while we were there. And the feds didn't come out.
I noticed that.
Nobody said nothing. Nobody got intimidated. We smoked a lot of weed.
Yeah, they were wearing the store.
And they didn't do anything, which shows what kind of power we really actually have.
That people, and I'm speaking for myself personally too, got in touch with their power and how powerful we individually can be, and that when we come together with events like what happened yesterday and then follow it by what happened today, we see how powerful we can be with each other if we would only support each other and get off our asses like so many people are on, and they expect other people to do the work for them. They're not going to do it for us. We have to do it ourselves. That's life.
I've always followed politics and, got pissed off at a lot of things and everything else. And it doesn't matter what idiot's in there. They're going to fuck up the taxes. They're going to fuck up the budget. But the legalization of marijuana and me having access to my medication, really, my life hangs on that. And so really this is, if a politician, that'll make or break your vote with me. I don't give a shit what you do with anything else. If you're against me in this fight, then whatever.
I want to take a minute and just kind of I want to thank everybody who came out anytime, whether it was yesterday, today, anytime, ever, to stand up for this issue, because that's hard enough. And to keep doing it again and again and again is exactly what we need, but it doesn't get any easier anytime you do it. And I want to take a minute to reflect on the difference between, because most people maybe weren't at both rally and the raid response yesterday. And just the temperament of the crowd, there was anger, there was rage, there was cussing. There were people in those cops' faces for hours. Hours, and that crowd kept growing. All right? And then today we came together and we put our fists in the air and we shouted together and we were organized and dignified and proud. And just being able to tap into different emotions, people can feel that. And they know that there's a time to be mad and they know there's a time to get work done. And we were exemplary in expressing both. Yes. So I want to thank all of you.
The gentleman there.
Hi. What was the real reason why they did the raid yesterday? Is that I just don't understand why they did that.
Until they unseal the search warrant, we won't know for certain.
Knowledge. They don't want you to have the knowledge.
Unbelievable, because it makes so much money for the state. It's ridiculous. It makes so much money for our government,
Well, how good are they at the Mississippi Railroad of the government? Are they good at it?
I have a statement that I want to make. Oh, this is irrelevant. Schedule 1 sort of nullifies this. If we don't get marijuana out of the Schedule 1, we're fucked.
Yes, teach.
Yes. What are we going to do about that? Scholars have a searching. They've been lost for the last 200 years, wandering around. Marijuana's been around for what? Forever?
3,785 years.
Please allow me to speak for a while, okay? How long has it been around? Ever since the beginning of time. We've only started paying attention to it scientifically for 40 years. So we've got to be politically smart. We've got to be politically smarter about it. We've got to get Schedule 1. We've got to get it out. How are we going to do it? We've got to start paying attention. We've got to put our minds together on we've got to focus. What I'm trying to say is we've got to focus on got to have a strategy, be more focused on it. We've got to refine the strategy, and then we've got to act on it. And we've got to continue to do that, and we've got to amplify it.
And grow.
Yes, thank you. One of the difficulties in our movement that should be obvious to all of us is that we're patients and sick people are having to fight their own fight, and that makes it harder for us. That's the reason why people don't come out on a day like today, because they're sick and they can't. And so that's why I think it's really important that we have all of the collective operators involved and who are here tonight, because they are able to get to these things and be involved and get all of their employees and volunteers who are more healthy and more able-bodied to get involved. And I think that made a big difference today in the turnout, and just having more able-bodied people in our movement is a real practical need, and I think that is really helping at this point.
Collectives, yes.
And thanks for coming.
That is That's the DC, dismissals and collectors, DC.
Okay, thank you, DC. Gail?
Oh, to follow up what was just said, I think that the rally was a success